The entire world looks like shredded frosted wheat. Hello, my name is Tucker. Today I thought it would be fun to sip some tea, aka do the worst books of 2019. Before I get started, all of these books on this list have been sent to me by the publishers in exchange for an honest review on Goodreads and my blog. Another thing I want to note is that I'm not in any way making any comments on the author who wrote this book. I only didn't like their book. Just because I didn't like your book doesn't mean I don't like you. So if an author, on the off chance an author sees their book on this list, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. Some books just aren't for some readers, and that's how it goes. And almost all of these books, I will probably say, this just wasn't for me. It wasn't my thing. There are a few books, though, that were extremely problematic, but I'll get to that in a second. The first book I have on this list is The Ashe Family by Molly Decter. This was kind of a mixed case of both. This book wasn't for me. At the same time, it was also kind of a problematic book. Basically, this book is about a girl who joins a cult and then tries to figure out if she wants to live in that cult or leave the cult, and she is trying to decide that. Excuse me, I have a cold. It was, I think it's marked as a thriller, but it didn't really feel like a thriller. It felt more suspense mystery, but it didn't do that for me. It was really boring, and then the ending just didn't make sense. I felt like I was waiting and waiting for the ending to just wrap everything up and make things feel less confusing, but that never came, which is why I think I gave it either 2 or 2.5 stars. Next, I have Hollow Kingdom by Kira Jane Buxton. This is a sci-fi thriller it follows the zombie apocalypse, told from the perspective of a crow. The crow is a pet, and he just talks about humans and how he feels about them. In this, the humans are called mofos, and that was very entertaining. Overall, the reason this book is so down at the bottom of this list is because it wasn't a bad book. I think my problem was that I didn't get it, which was my fault. I think it was a commentary on, like, economy and the way humans treat the earth and the way they use technology. I think that was the theme that was supposed to be taken away from this book. But I could tell, even as I was reading this and looking back, this book just went right over my head. Once I take, like, I don't know, an economy class and ethics classes or something, I don't know, I think I could reread this and understand it a little bit more. But yeah, this book just didn't hit me the way it was probably meant to, and that wasn't the author's fault. It was probably just this book wasn't meant for me. It was meant for other readers. So I would say, even though I didn't like it, I still recommend you check it out, because I think you might end up enjoying it. Next, I have Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune by Roselle Lim. I have such mixed feelings on this one. It wasn't bad at first. The main character was infuriating. She kept making so many dumb decisions, and the overall plot didn't make complete sense. I think this is magical realism, but the author wasn't very clear on, like, the rules. How magical is it? Is it just perceptions? It wasn't very clear. And also, this wasn't the author's fault. I think Berkeley marketed this as romance, and it wasn't romantic. There's a small romance subplot, but it wasn't good. It was not well done. The only positive about this book was the writing style, and the writing style was so gorgeous that it actually saved this book from being a 2 stars, and this was a 2.5 stars. I really can't wait to see where the author goes with her work, because she has such talent with writing. Her writing is very prose and beautiful to read. So even if I didn't like this book, others might, and I definitely will be reading more of her work soon. The next book I have on this list is Anyone by Charles Soule? I don't know. I'm not good at pronunciation. This is a sci-fi thriller, basically about a woman who invents this technology so that you can switch into other people's bodies. It had so much potential, and that's why I was so sad to give it 2.5 stars in the end. It started out really great. There are two different storylines. One about the inventor of the technology and her husband, and then one about a young woman who's like using the black market version of the technology, and it switches back and forth between those two storylines. The only storyline I cared about was the inventor and her husband, but that ended up being not the main storyline, and so that was really disappointing. Then also, after the first 20-ish pages, it started to get, like, into a bit of a repeat. Like, I felt like nothing was happening. Like, person is chased by someone, person escapes, chased by someone. It just kept happening over and over again, and it got really boring. And then, the thing is, the only reason this wasn't given 1.5 stars or 2 stars is because the last chapter was, like, mind-blowing. Like, it was such a twist. I was so sad. I was like, why couldn't you have used that brilliant writing and twisting in the whole book instead of just the end? And so, in the end, I didn't like this book. The twist was amazing, but it was too little, too late. So, yeah. I've never had much luck with this author, but I'm going to keep trying because I think he has a lot of potential. And now we are into the top 3 worst books of 2019. Number 3 is, drumroll, Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. It's funny because their other recent novel, The Unhoneymooners, is actually one of my most favorite books of 2019 and all time. It was such an amazing book, and this book just fell short completely. And I know I'm not the only one who feels like that. This was just such a dud. It was very boring. It was not funny. It was not sexy, and it was not romantic at all. And I was really sad because, again, I had such good luck with the first time I read them, which was The Honeymooners, and it was so good, and I expected so much out of this, and then it just didn't meet my expectations at all. They do have another book coming in 2020, The Honey Don't List, which I'm hoping to read, and hopefully that will be better than this. That said, I still recommend people try this because I know there are some people that liked it more than I did. So if you try this, good luck. Now number 2, another title from Berkeley Publishing, Girl in Red by Christina Henry. Oh my god, this book was so frustrating. And it was, again, so many of these books had so much freaking potential to be an all-time favorite. This, until the last chapter, this was a 5-star read. But then the last chapter just completely ruined everything. I don't want to give away anything. Basically, it's about a girl who's living in the apocalypse, trying to escape from, like, not zombies, this isn't really a zombie apocalypse, but from a disease, and also from, like, in the apocalypse, people tend to go crazy, and then she's also trying to escape from the crazy people. She's basically, it's a Red Riding Hood retelling. She's trying to get to her grandmother's house, which is, like, the only safe place left for her. The problem was, again, so much potential. The author opened up this idea of, like, monsters and sci-fi and viruses and secret government stuff, but then she just left it hanging. Like, it was like, the end, everything goes well, but oops, I never explained anything about the disease or the things you saw in this book. It was just so frustrating because I was really, really looking forward to the explanation of, okay, here's why this person did this, and here's how this works, but we were never given that, and that was so, so frustrating, and to this day, it makes me mad to think about that ending. And now, finally, the worst book of 2019, Toil and Trouble by Augusten Burroughs. This was the only book I gave 1 star this entire year. This is one of those rare books where I can't say that I recommend you try it even if I didn't like it, because it's just such a clusterfuck. Like, oh my goodness. Basically, and it's nonfiction. It's about Augusten Burroughs, who believes he's a witch. Now, let me pause by saying I believe in magic. I know there's magic out there. There's no way we can live in this world without supernatural elements. And I believe that some people can harness that power. But Augusten Burroughs is not a witch. Everything, basically, he goes, in this memoir, because it is nonfiction, and it read like a fantasy novel, which, not a good sign. He talks about how he had always had power since he was young, and he could do spells, but everything he mentioned could easily be explained away by science and common sense. Now, I'm not trying to be that person who's like, oh, there's a scientific explanation for everything, there's no such thing as supernatural stuff, because as I said, I believe that there is. But in this case, almost everything he mentioned could be explained away by coincidence, common sense, math, science, any of that. The example I keep thinking of is there was one time where he was annoyed with chipmunks in his yard because they kept digging holes that he and his husband would trip over. So he made a spell to bring an owl, and then the next day an owl ate all their chipmunks. And he was like, wow, then my spell worked. And I was like, no, bitch, it didn't. You live in the woods. There are owls. Ah, this is just so frustrating. I barely finished it. I don't recommend this at all, and it seems that not a lot of people seem to like this, but I just felt like it was so ludicrous and just too unbelievable. Yeah, I don't know if I want to try any of his other works, though, because a lot of people say he can be exaggerating a little bit, but, yeah. Anyway, that's it. Those are the books I hated this year. Once again, not comments on the authors. Even with Augusten Burroughs, I'm not commenting on his personality, his life. I'm just saying I had a hard time believing the book he wrote. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Just kidding, I completely forgot about one book that I also hated. This is the second book that I gave 1 star, which is Cheshire Crossing. I hated this book. I would rather burn it than see it live on my bookshelf, but I'm not that kind of person. This is not even retelling, it's honestly basically fanfiction of Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and what was the other one? I don't remember the other one. My brain is just... Give me a second. Wonderland. Oh, and Wizard of Oz. It sucked. It read like awful fanfiction that was somehow both immature and too adulty. Whew, this is a really big mess that needs to be edited, I don't think. Again, read like really poorly written fan fiction, which is super disappointing because it was by Andy Weir, one of the best sci-fi authors, and Sarah Anderson, one of the best artists I've ever seen. So I was super disappointed with this one. Anyway, now I'm done. Thank you for watching. Bye. I forgot to record an outro, so now I'm recording one on my Kindle Fire, which is why the frame rate is really, really bad. But I just wanted to say thank you. I will link all the books that I mentioned, even though I hated them. You might like them. So I will link them in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.